All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'll go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the Dane City Public Schools Board of Education. If you'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, there is an open meeting statement on the south wall of the boardroom. All board members are in attendance. Moving right along to student and staff involvement. The first thing is introducing our student board members.
I thought it might be with the new teachers here and the new school year, it might be nice for Harrison and his new counterpart to introduce themselves and maybe just take 30 seconds or so to maybe let us know what you're involved in and or why you wanted to be on the board. So Harrison, you mind going first?
Yeah, no problem. Hello, everyone. I am Harrison Blade, the senior here at David City. I'd say my favorite activity is on involvement in basketball and track. And I'm really happy to sit on the board because I love listening to some can tell that a lot of my kids or my fellow kids don't get, and I say share that with them. So part of the
My name is Kevin Yachty, and I'm a junior. My favorite activity to be speech and one activity sport. I joined student board to give my insight on the opinions of the multiple activities I've been involved in.
Thank you, guys.
And your dad is Coach Yachty. We will not hold that again.
And you can go home and tell him.
It's even recorded.
Yeah, show him the recording.
Thank you guys for being here. We really like having you here. So look forward to the school year and you guys being here. So next up is introducing the new teachers.
All right, and I'm not sure who wants to go first, but if you guys are willing to stand up, maybe which building you're going to be teaching in, what it is you're teaching, and if you're possibly helping with an extracurricular activity, they might like to know that as well. And then anything else you feel might be important for them to know, like maybe where you either came from, or maybe where you went to school or grew up. We'll really leave that up to you. And Jordan, would you mind going first? We just go up and down the roads?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Jordan McBride. I'll be here in high school teaching 7 through 12 skilled and technical sciences. Most people know that as shop, but my degree is STS, and so I like to say that. If they're with like, what is skilled and technical sciences? I am an assistant football coach. I will be the head junior high wrestling coach, and then I think the plan is for me to stay on and help coach high school wrestling. It's kind of interesting. I've actually never coached junior high wrestling, but that's what my dad did for 20 years, even before I was born. And so I'm actually pretty excited for that.
Where did we steal you from?
Yeah, so I was teaching at Bertrand for 3 years. My sister is living in Sioux City, Iowa, and my wife's family is kind of out in this direction. Aurora and in Seward now is one of my sister-in-laws. It's just time to get closer to family a little bit. Unfortunately, we actually moved further from my parents, but they're the only ones, so.
They should move. They should move.
Well, if you ask my dad, he'd move to Lincoln tomorrow, or at least outside of Lincoln, but that's just the way it is. So I'm really excited to be here. A fun fact about me, I told the staff the other day, I got my master's in athletics administration this summer, and I am the first person on either side of my family to get above a 4-year degree, which I'm pretty proud of. So
Should be.
Thank you much. Thank you.
Doug Stevens, I'm the new JAG teacher here at David City. I'll do 9 through 12. Grew up around Lincoln, spent 35 years in the Nebraska National Guard, 22 active.
I'm Kate Millington. I'll be teaching English 9 in high school and then English 7 and 8 support classes with junior high. I'm a first-year teacher, and for the last couple of years, I've been working in camp ministry. So really excited to get back into education. Both my parents are speech coaches, theater people. I'm super excited to assistant coach for the WAC and the CED. Yep, super excited.
And my guess is you knew Mr. O before you got here?
I have known Minister for, I think, since I was born.
Okay.
A lot of people say that. Okay, I'm Emily here. I'll be here in the morning right now, full-time studying for Mrs. Reeves. So I'm doing PE and health. And then in the afternoons, I go to Bellwood for PE. I'm from Shelby. I graduated from Sterling College in Kansas with my undergrad, where I played softball. So I'm also coaching softball with Miss Priotti. I'm very lucky, though. I'm going to say all nice things. And I'm also coaching junior high girls basketball and junior high track.
And Emily and I used to work together at the flower shop.
Yeah.
We have to put that in there.
Sure.
I'm Jory Lemons. I do special education at the elementary here. I'm from Randolph. I went to college at UNL, and I went back to Randolph, and I taught first grade for my first year, and now very good. I'm Carly Colgan. I'm a second grade teacher right across the street. I'm from Burwell. Graduated college from Chadron, and then it's my first year teaching. But I've been a paraprofessional for a while, and then Dodge, and then I did system hardware. Cool.
I'm Andrew Rachel. I am the fourth grade teacher out at the elementary. My family and I live here in David City. I'm from Central City. My previous experience has been in Schuyler with fourth and fifth grade, last 16 years. So I'm super excited to be here. Officially call it home. My three kids, they go to Aquinas. So I have a freshman, seventh grader, and one entering kindergarten. But I'm just very excited to be here.
I'm Sherry Nelson. I teach sixth grade at Bellwood. I'm from Ansley originally, and I've never been at the last 17 years. I started off Grand Island my first year. I'm super excited. I actually picked our position in Bellwood, so I was very excited that I signed up for any job I could find in Bellwood or in David City. So I'm in the street at the teacher. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I assistant coach dance and cheer, and then I'll feed over and coach it. Sorry, after.
I'm Pam Brzezinski, and I'm going to be special education out at Bellwood. My story started about 15 miles down the road in Schuyler, and I graduated from Schuyler Central many moons ago. I married my high school sweetheart, and we traveled the world for 21 years in the Air Force. And so along the way somewhere, I got 20 years of teaching experience in, and absolutely love what I do. I started in general education, language arts, and social studies for sixth grade. And then I moved into special education in North Dakota for about 7 to 8 years. And then I moved out to Western Nebraska and worked at ESU 13 for a few years, did some administration and SPED director. And then we decided we wanted to come back home. And so we bought an orchard in Brainerd because I think everyone does that. And decides that they're gonna have this life to keep them busy. And so that's kind of what brought me back. And I'm super excited to be back with kids in the classroom.
That's great. Or
Yep.
I can introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Stand up.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Casey.
I'm Casey Coleman. I brought the cookies.
It's your birthday.
I carried a It's my birthday. I work downtown at the flower/coffee shop. Hopefully we see you there for a pick-me-up once in a while, early mornings. I've been on the board. This is my 8th year. Graduated from Aquinas. I have 3 kids. One left me. She's at UNL. I have a junior son, Chase, and I have a 7th grader, Will. Old boys. I live with old boys.
I'm Clay Cossack, originally from Schuyler. Been living in David City for about 9 years now. Been on board since March, so pretty fresh still. Work in construction with a lot of other schools around the state. So got a 6 and a 4-year-old going to school here. So yeah, welcome.
Don Warwick, 1999 graduate of David City. Went to college in Kearney. And my wife moved back here. I'm a tax accountant, financial advisor during the day. My wife teaches 5th grade, Amy, at the elementary. I have one son left in the school system, sophomore this year, and my daughter's a freshman this year at Norfolk. And farmed a little bit too, so I think I've been on the board not quite 10 years.
Marcus Tyndall, graduated in 95. Pharmacist up at Super Saver in Columbus. Got 4 kids. One graduated a couple years ago. He's at Kearney. One's going to start in Wayne here in a few weeks. And then I have a senior, Riley, here, and Orion, my son, is over in Bellwood. He's a 6th grader. I've been on the board,
12 years, something like that.
Not as long as your dad.
Yeah, not as long as my dad, yes, but
And an alum.
and another guy, yes. So that's about it.
Stephanie Summers. I would love to. I'm not an alumni transplant. I didn't graduate from anywhere around here. Grew up in Connecticut, but I have lived here for 19 years. Been on the board for 16 years, and I have 3 daughters. One is a senior student teaching in Aurora, currently senior in college, student teaching in Aurora. I have 1 junior, and I have a 6th grader over at the elementary school, so watch out for her. And what else? I was a teacher before, so I substitute quite a bit in the district. And I worked for NASB, not School Board Association. Sorry. Like,
Sure.
yes. Hold on.
Justin Krafka. I born and raised in Bellwood. We've got my wife Laura and I have 3 kids. Trace is a junior here at David City. Stephen is a sophomore at Aquinas, and Michael's a 7th grade here at David City. Yeah, live on a farm there. 6-year off board. So, well, you did my.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. We've got, sounds like rock stars in the group. So super excited for everybody to be here.
Yeah, we just had 1 new teacher that wasn't able to make it, and so we'll get in here.
Oh, now they got to be all.
That's right. That's right.
So come back next month.
Yeah. Everybody shows up and then everybody else is silent. But they only gets it's not. So feel free to go. I know you guys have had a busy couple of days. So yes, now's your time to
Skedaddle.
skedaddle. Head out.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Good
guys.
to meet all of you. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 3, public forum. I didn't receive any public forum, so we'll move on to consent agenda, approved minutes of the previous meeting. Yeah, I didn't find any.
I didn't either.
So moving on to approving claims against the district.
Trying to wrap up the fiscal year, so for the most part, it's kind of our usual claims, except for there were 2 new ones in there that we don't always have. We have similar transfers this time of year, so I do want to at least bring those to your attention. I'm asking the board to transfer $100,000 to the activity fund and $1 million to the depreciation fund. That will give us some abilities, depending upon what we do with the construction projects. That $1 million could be used towards the HVAC is what I'm anticipating. So it just gives us some flexibility on how we do that HVAC project in the future, whether we run it through the depreciation fund or run it through the lease purchase. So I am asking for those transfers tonight. I won't be asking for a transfer to the lunch fund. We'll wait and see how this next year goes, and then if we need to transfer some towards the end of the year, we will. But not asking you to do some at this time. NASB, we did get our bill. This is our annual bill for our insurance, and so that $126,000 claim is in there. That's a once a year annual payment for that. So that's for the 26-27 school year. Those are probably the main ticket items that I wanted to bring to your attention tonight. The rest of it is pretty standard operating procedure, but be more than glad to try to answer any questions you have on the claims. If I can't answer it, I'll get you an answer.
I had a question, and at first I thought it was a typo, but I see it a couple times. What's ESY for the early childhood ESY? What does that mean?
Extended school year services. So we have a handful of special ed students who have shown that they regress enough throughout the summer
Yeah.
that they need some extended school year services. So we meet with them maybe 6 times in the summer.
Okay.
So
And any student who's on an IFSP, that for the 3,
Yeah.
automatically get ESY services.
Okay.
Or that goes year round, and that switches to school year when
Okay.
a student turns 3.
No, interesting. Okay, cool. Thanks. Should just
It's a small novel. What's the absurd our election fees to the
anytime there's like a school board election or anything like that, we have to pay our small share review. Yes. And so they were
Just for this upcoming,
no, it was for one several months ago. I'm trying to think. Oh, it would have been for the May primary. We still have to pay our share, just even though they were even on it. Correct. Done. So, yes, we pay our share as a the state agency or county agency.
Right.
All the bank card goes at Puzzle and quizzes that doubled up, or is that just we got a few different subscriptions for either?
That's per teacher. And so we set aside some money each year where teachers can request some innovative technology type things. And so we had a couple teachers request those. So that's an annual subscription that we pay.
This isn't on the claims, but Mr. Brown's pretty proud of his part of it. So
We'll take a look after.
yeah, we'll need to.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Great.
All right. We'll move on to financial reports.
Starting with the general fund, we have just shy of $8 million in the fund, which gives us the ability to make that kind of transfer to the depreciation fund and the activity fund and still stay within the budget that we had allocated. We are sitting in good shape. If you look at the general fund comparison, we are ahead of where we were a year ago. I did ask at admin days some questions about, why are we seeing a little bit more money in the account than what I anticipated. The state left it up to the counties when they paid us the property tax credits. And so like last year, I don't think we got some of that until September. This year, as soon as the state gave the counties the money, the counties can decide when they then gave us our share of that. And so I think our county gave it to us earlier than they did last year. So I will go down as we're working on our tax request to get a little better idea then of what's our September tax receipt going to be that compared to last year. Because if they gave us our property tax credit money early, then that probably means we got less coming in. And so I did at least check on that. So that's the why you see that difference from last year to this year. We're just about at the end of our fiscal year. With just a couple weeks to go, we spent 85% of the budget. That'll look a lot different with the transfers and the payments tonight, but we'll still be within our legal limit. Depreciation fund, we made our last payment to the home center this month, but we still owe facility advocates just over $400,000 for the Bellwood HVAC project, which is just about done, but not quite. And so I'm anticipating having about $2.1 billion of the depreciation fund once we make that transfer and make our last payments to facility advocates. And so that would give us the ability to potentially to pay for like the David City Elementary HVAC project out of that account instead of a lease purchase fund. We don't have to, but we're setting us up for that option because obviously we're not going to know dollars until maybe Christmas time or whenever on the project. And so this just gives us some flexibility that we don't have if we don't make that kind of transfer. Employee benefit fund, again, like I tell you every month, it's not really our money. That's the employees taking money out of their paycheck for medical expenses or daycare. The one thing that did come out in the last week, which will show up in our end of the year balances, we did pay for our employee assistance program, in which all of our employees can get 6 free counseling sessions for them and or any family member. That's just under $5,500. So we did cut that check this week, but you won't see it until the August claims. So that'll come out of there. The activity fund is in pretty good shape other than I did catch one mistake on my end. I did not zero out the referee expenses from last year. And so that's why I'm asking for $100,000. A lot of times I'll ask for a $50,000 or $75,000 transfer this time of year. I'm asking for the $100,000 because we had $29,000 in referee expenses the previous year that I didn't zero out that account. So that's why the ask for additional funds this year, so I can zero out both years and get us back to zero. But other than that, the activity fund is in good shape. The bond fund, all we had was some interest the last couple months, so nothing there. Not a whole lot in claims in terms of the lunch fund this month. We did have issues with both walk-in coolers though this summer, and so that's why you see a bill for $1,300. So I guess they were lonely. One didn't work one week, we got it up and running. The next week, the other ones didn't work. So I guess the one felt bad for the other, so they both had to go down. So, so we did take care of those lunch funds. Like I said, I'm not going to ask you for a transfer right now, because if we start the year with too much money in the lunch fund, even if it's a result of a transfer of funds, then I get a letter sometime around Christmas or after the first year saying, hey, you started the school year with too much money in your account. You can only keep 3 or 4 months of expenses in the lunch fund. If you have more than that, then in the federal government's eyes, it says that you're making too much money in your lunch account. And so then what they do is they cut your reimbursement until you get down to the dollar amount, or I have to come up with a plan of how we're going to spend the money to get back under that threshold. So we'll just wait on a transfer this year until we really need it. But I'll make sure I have money budgeted in the 26-27 fiscal year to make that happen if needed. So, but not too concerned right now. The bond fund, just some interest payments the last couple months, so no activity there. Building fund, we have not quite finalized the purchase of those 3 properties, but I did finally get the title documents to review, and so I would think we're just a few days away from closing on all 3 of the properties here to the west of the high school. So the hope and the goal is to get that wrapped up and finalized before the end of our fiscal year, which is August 31. So so we will have that $135,000, which is total cost of those 3 properties combined, and then whatever our fees are on the titles and stuff. So it'll be a few extra dollars for that, but pretty good price there, I think, for 3 properties. And then QC Puff, the only expense we had there is we are allowed to make some safety security purchases out of there. So we did make a purchase. One of the things the admin team had asked for was radios in all of them, so they can carry some 2-way radios for some safety security reasons. And I believe we did check them out, and we can actually reach between buildings even if we wanted to, right?
We can.
Right? So they're a little bit more powerful than what you'd get at just the nickel dime store. And so hopefully it's one of those things where we don't need them for safety security issues. It's nice to have. And it is nice to be able to communicate amongst the buildings.
Does everybody get a handle?
Yeah, we haven't gotten that far yet.
Does everybody get a handle?
Then check it for 5 years.
Rubber ducky.
Yeah, I don't think they want me giving them a nickname, so I'll let them work that out amongst themselves. And then last but not least, the student fees. We haven't started collecting FFA or FCCLA dues, but I'm sure we will in the coming weeks. And so no activity there other than a few cents of interest, but more than glad to answer any questions you have, knowing that in 2 weeks you're going to hear more about school finance than you ever want to hear when we have our big budget and tax discussion here in 2 weeks on the 26th. So,
A few questions about any of the specific ones.
Passion. That's legal.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 4.1 to 4.3.
Was second.
Moved by Donnie, seconded by Marcus. I vote yes. Justin?
Yes.
Casey?
Yes.
Ray?
Yes.
Donnie?
Yes.
Marcus?
Yes.
All right, moving on. Board committee reports. We don't have any
No.
committees meet. Board workshop and conference.
I do want to talk about that very briefly. We had talked about going to the area meeting in Fremont on Wednesday, September 23rd. That was the only one that worked. But I was going to ask for a board meeting that night, but we're going to have to move that board meeting if we go to the area meeting. They have set the joint public hearing on the pink postcard meeting for Monday, September 21. They now kind of shifted that window, so we can't go to that pink postcard meeting until the 21st to present our info. So we shouldn't approve our budget and tax request till after that pink postcard meeting. I was going to say, well, let's just have it 2 nights later on Wednesday, and then I looked at my calendar and saw that, oh, we're going to be in Fremont that night. So
We can still have our meeting for the night that we were going to have in September.
correct. So the meeting on the 23rd would be very quick. It would be a 2-item agenda approving the budget for the 26-27 year, and approving the tax request for the 2020 year is all that would
15
happen.
minutes early before we. I was gonna say meeting here or no?
We couldn't.
Wait, yeah, because we're not. Yeah,
Yeah, I could come here.
We could still do it, just do
Could we do it at like 5:30 or 6? I don't know, how early can you go?
No,
And
if
so-
we're doing it the
No.
23rd, we do it right before we go up
to the area meeting.
Right, which we need to leave at 6.
Oh, usually
It
right
leaves
after.
at 7, right?
the Bears membership.
Yeah, is it? Or is it earlier?
No, usually the.
I thought we usually meet like right after.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's at 4:30.
Yeah.
So 3:30.
Like if we met at 3.
3, could we have a 3 p.m. board meeting that day? 23rd. On the 23rd?
I'd probably do that.
I mean, we'd have to be here by 3:30. Okay.
Yeah, for work.
Yeah.
Oh, I would say like you'd have to do a morning one.
Yeah, we,
Yeah, if you did that, would you have your hearing and stuff at a way different?
yeah. Yeah, we would do that at our regular meeting.
Correct.
September.
Correct. So I don't care if you want to do a morning meeting, early afternoon. I don't, it's really up to you guys.
Well, is everybody going to the area worship meeting?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
Listen, are you able to go?
Okay. Right, you might think that's.
Have it at
Yeah.
3.
Yeah,
and
have it at
plan to
3.
leave here right after them.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, that makes sense. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, administrative reports, Dr. Langford, anything to add?
No.
Right, do any of the administrators have anything to add to their reports?
I do. We did do our reunification drill yesterday, first time we've ever done
I
that.
did hear,
It went a lot better than expected because we didn't know. The pickleball ladies they loved it.
I heard about it.
Oh, I think the kids were in the stands cheering them on. It was full stands out the auditorium, and they were quite excited afterward. How many were watching? So, they had a good time. I did want to make mention of that drill. That first time we did, and our students and our staff did a great job. So
is that a state required drill now, or is that just something?
it's just something that
decided?
probably needs to be happening periodically.
They recommend you do one every couple of years, and we hadn't done one in a long time. And so Chad and the team took it upon themselves to make sure it happens. Sure.
And the elementaries will eventually do it, but they were our guinea pigs. They're gonna teach us.
So go on Tuesday so they get a pickleball lesson too.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything else to add?
I just say we're up and running and it's going well as a positive start to the year. And every day we're getting a little bit closer to being 40 air conditioned. So we have a couple rooms that are problem spots right now. And the one they completed at 6 p.m. when I was leaving. We're hoping they can get the other one fixed. Teachers have been super flexible. Kudos to them. Preschool 8 in the library 2 days in a row. So tomorrow they can eat lunch at their classroom for the first time. So
Freezing.
we're making it work.
Should. All right. Let's see, discussion action items. Okay, so we're gonna go right into presentations from Superintendent Search Firms. We know that Dr. Baker is going to be giving us his resignation at our next meeting. And so the goal is to hear all of the different search proposals tonight. And then it gives us, as board members, 2 weeks to check references or make any phone calls, just to kind of see how they've worked with other districts before making that decision on our next board meeting, which would be August 26th. Yeah. And so tonight we have 3 proposals, which are included as attachments. We have McPherson and Jacobson, which I don't think that there's anybody here.
No, they did not send her up.
They did not send a rep, so they're not giving an actual presentation. But yeah, let's go to
Yep.
we could talk those out, and then. So what we'll do, they are here. We just have them in the other conference room so that they will present to us one at a time, and then it will be in the same room together. So So I'm going to go ahead and pass out NASB's proposal too, and then we can look through Mac and Jake's later so that they can present to us and then get on the road.
And I only made maybe 6 of the NASB in Dirk, so that every board member get back up.
Yeah.
NAS.
Yeah, we want to pass out here down to a church.
That's how you feel. Let's screen it.
Yeah. Well, I can take one home with you. Kind of.
That's
And then I went ahead and I put together a table of comparison for each one of the search firms. So just to kind of, it's a lot of contract language. And so I put that together, tried to compare it in the same parts of the table as best as I could. So,
you have one more face.
I don't know when that.
So
That's that, you know.
should have now's been done what? Your short one.
We're short one episode.
It's the same. It's the same. That's on here.
It is.
They're identical to what?
I don't need it. That's fine. I can. I looked through it.
But making sure it's top heating.
And so we'll we'll get NASD
Yep.
and have them come ask questions and flip through the proposal as they're presenting.
So each one of them has their own contract template that they.
Yep.
If you don't have one, they could that.
No.
What's the date on the very meeting? The 13th or 23rd?
23rd.
20.
Penn State, September 23rd. And when I get to the future discussion items, I'll run down a list
Yeah.
of dates.
Okay, good.
Be handy. And the 2 search firms tonight that are here agreed to not listen to each other's presentation. Technically, they could have sat in and listened because it is an open board meeting, but they gave each other the professional courtesy to agree to let each one do it without the other one present. So NASB was going to go, and then it works up. And Harrison and Trevor, I do have Miss Daniels making copies of the next 2 forest races.
Cleared out.
Can do it. Where would you like us to stand? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
right up here.
The bus.
Pins with the for the members. We should start here. And I do have one extra. I'm sorry, I didn't other be this many people.
Actually, those are our 2 student board members.
All right. All right. Well, I'm Sherry. What's your name?
Your name is Trevin.
Trevin?
Harrison.
Harrison. Nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. And Daisy. Yes, we've met before.
Clay.
Clay, I don't know if I Clay. Come on.
Have this.
I'm Rex.
You do know me. Daisy.
What's
Up again. Guys. Well, I'm Sherry
Good to
Becker
see you.
from the School Boards Association. And before I get started, how much time are you wanting?
This whatever.
Well, we're going to try and do this in about 10-ish, no longer than 15, but want to leave time for questions because I'm guessing you might have a few. So
That's what I told the other group. I said 10 to 15.
that'll be perfect. That'll be perfect. And so let me first ask, I'm assuming nobody was on the board when you did the last search besides, Stephanie. That was it. Okay. Well, I know you guys were, so I don't know why I looked that way. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about this and give you plenty of opportunity for questions and that sort of thing. So again, I'm Sherry Becker. I'm the director of the search service at the School Boards Association, and I have with me Rex File. And Rex is a consultant with the search service, and so he goes out and does planning meetings and different things as well. So we're going to kind of tag team talking about things a little bit here. And because I believe he brings a great perspective to our search process, having led a lot of searches, but also having been a superintendent before and multiple searches that we conducted that he was as a result of
if you know more strict with that. So we're going to start, and since I know you have a couple of weeks right after this before you're making a decision, I'm going to let you read a little bit of this on your own, and we're just going to skip to meat and potatoes of it. So let's skip on to page 2 and talk directly about the search service protocol part about things. So this is going to be what our process entails. So the steps of what would happen during a search. So what will happen is if you hire NASB, we would immediately put the position on our website. There's not going to be a lot of information on there about it, but it's just to let people know that we're going to be facilitating the process with the school district and the board. So eventually we'll add marketing materials to that, but it's going to take a little bit of time to get a feel for what the board's looking for, what the district's looking for. So we will get that posted right away, and then we'll do a survey of the board members to start getting some input on what are you looking for? What's going well with the school district? What are some challenges you will be facing? Are there some attributes that you want your superintendent to possess? I'm sure there are a lot of things that Dr. Dinker has done in his time here that have been fabulous. And maybe there are some areas that weren't quite as strong for him that maybe you might be looking for your next leader to have. We just want to make sure we don't lose what you had with him when you hired your new one. So we want to send those surveys out to start getting an idea of all that. We will begin creating a marketing brochure and start advertising, like I said, just on our site. Then we'll do a few work sessions. And the first work session that we do will lay out a timeline. I think you're in a great position to be aggressive with a timeline. I believe that you can hire definitely before Christmas break. But when exactly will depend upon what the board would like to do. We're going to see some boards that are going to hire in November. We're going to see some that will wait until December. So we'll talk about the pros and cons and get a feel for what you'd like to do. Do you potentially have some new board members coming on? Okay. So that's sometimes something we talk about during election year as far as timing and how to involve them. So skip right over that. So once we have our first work session, we talk about the timeline. We'll also be looking at the HARC surveys that you turn in, and we'll start developing a leadership profile. That leadership profile is going to be really important to help guide the selection of interview questions. It's going to help you compare applicants. It's going to also help you then decide who's the best match for the district, in addition to, of course, personality and things like that that you see during the interview. But you want to have something to compare, and that's what that leadership profile will provide. And then after the search is over, you'll have a board retreat with the new superintendent and the board administration. That'll happen once the new superintendent starts, and that leadership profile will again guide that board retreat. So in essence, what were we looking for the superintendent to do? And now how would we like them to start doing that? So just a very basic example, communicating better with the community. If that was something that you had on your list, do you have some ideas about how you would want that to happen, right? So that would be all related to the leadership profile. In addition to that, during our work sessions, we're going to discuss a salary survey that we complete that is a statewide salary survey of all the superintendents, compensation information. Rex has some special compensation arrays that he does as well, that he accesses. And then we'll talk about contract, because I'm guessing maybe the language probably hasn't been updated. Have you gotten any updated language in recent years, or you just kind of keep rolling it over?
Is your school kind of Perry Law Firm?
Yeah, version of it back on track.
So we'll have you get a copy of a blanket contract from them, and just start talking about the language so that the board really knows what you're going to be committed to.
Could you add more of those to, and then ones that Harris in there, please?
Thank you.
Here you go, Trevor.
All right. And then we're going to also look at interview questions. We're going to look at interview schedule structure. So there's a lot of different groups that you could have involved with the interview process. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Rex?
Yeah, I think one thing about that leadership profile, why it's so important, because one of the things we'll work on is that once you develop that leadership profile and we have those things out there, we'll tailor your questions to meet that leadership profile. Because it doesn't make any sense for you to ask questions that don't match that leadership profile. So that's a really important piece of that too. And then as we move into the groups and questions and things like that, one of the things we can do, we can come out and we can meet with individual groups and get feedback from, it's usually your administrative team and then the teacher team and then maybe some classified staff. We like to include kids when we can, students, and that they're an important piece. that you should never, ever overlook in this process, because superintendent has a great impact on what happens in the classroom in your building. So that's an important piece. And then if there's other parent or other patrons that we want to bring in for small groups to get their feedback as well too, that's real important. Because again, what we're trying to do with that whole thing is get feedback from people on what they're looking for in their next leader of the district and how those things will mesh into your leadership profile. And as then we start to develop those questions for those things, then those questions really become very specific. So as you ask that to all your candidates, you're going to be able to discern and kind of be able to weed out their answers, either as really effective and really close to that profile or miss the mark. So that's an important piece. And I think also those groups also, that feedback that comes back is good feedback for you as a board. Because sometimes, even though you're all part of the community and you hear things, you don't hear everything. And so that feedback is real important. And then we would also do an online survey as well, which the online survey can be given to students probably as low as like maybe 5th grade, 4th grade, depending on what your structure looks like, all the way through high school. And that's good feedback as well too. And the folks at the NASB will take that and will report back big themes, not specific comments, because sometimes comments aren't all those great, but the broad themes, and that we bring that back to you as well too. So we can blend that all together and develop a real good profile for you to look at for your next year.
And so he was talking a little bit about engagement of stakeholders. So in addition to engaging stakeholders, so different groups of people in giving input on what they're looking for, we could also include them then in the interview process. Yeah. So we would be able to have, maybe you want a teacher group, maybe you want some students involved in a tour, different things like that. So we would build that interview schedule based around what the board would like to see that look like. Of course, administrators are always involved in that process as well. And so we'll just be working with the board to try and figure out what groups and then how we identify the people that are going to be involved in that process. So at the bottom of page 2, recruiting and identifying quality applicants, that's obviously our duty. If you receive calls from people or you hear of people you want us to recruit, we'll take care of that so that it's not a promise of an interview or a promise of getting the job. So we want to make sure that we're handling that communication.
And I would say the one thing that I've seen the past couple of years is that communication, what I would call ex parte with the potential candidate board members, has increased a little bit. And so one of the things we'll talk to you about is how to handle those calls and what to say to those people. So again, you're not rude to them, you're not short, but you want to get them to the right place. And so we can identify those potential candidates and guide them down the right path as well too.
Just definitely probably us following up. So we will screen all the completed online applications. We do a comprehensive reference check. So we're going to contact people that they have listed, but more importantly, people that they don't have listed. Because if you're listed as a reference, you're probably going to be saying good things about them, right? We want to make sure we're talking to people who are saying good things and maybe things that are a weakness for the person so that we can share that with the board. And then let's flip over to page 3 here. At the top of page 3, it talks about the final special meeting that we'll do. We will present all applicants' information to the board. So all of their names, we'll be in closed session for some of that, open session for some of that. We don't want to reveal a candidate or an applicant name unless if they're invited to interview, and then those names have to become public. And then we also will finalize questions, interview details. We contact the applicants. We give them the good news that they're invited to interview and the bad news that they're not. We also will call them and let them know if the board picks a different candidate at the end of the interviews. So we take care of all of the bad news, and you get to share the good news. So usually the board chair is the one who gets to call and offer a position to someone, and we'll help you with all of that negotiations, conversation. And then just as a side note, also, the board duties to interview candidates for the position, we can be on site for that. We will be on site for that to facilitate host. You might want to have your current superintendent doing a facilities tour or something. So we'll be here to take care of that. But those do have to be done in open session. They're not a meeting where the public is contributing, but it's not listed as a reason to go into closed session. So those will be an open session. you will not have the different groups that participate. For example, if you have a community group or a staff group, those can be done in a separate room. But if the board is in a quorum, you would have to be doing that in open session. It's very common. It's not always comfortable, but it's very common. And so anyway, final duties, again, you get to share the good news. We get to share the bad news. We'll coordinate everything to do with the interviews. Transition is the last piece to talk about on page 3. We will continue communications with the vice president and the incoming superintendent until the start date. We have a new retreat that we have started doing this past year called a transition retreat that we will do sometime in the January, February, March timeframe, because there's a long time between December and July 1st. And so we don't want things going off the rails. So how can we involve that new superintendent, but still be respectful of the fact that they have a job right now, right? So we're going to work through that in a transition retreat if the board would like to do that. That does have a little extra fee, but the board retreat in the fall when the new superintendent starts is included in the search fee. So that would be just something to consider. We can arrange mentoring and all of that. So it's a lot can be done in that 6 months to make sure that it's really a smooth transition when they come in on July 1st. So I know that was a lot of information, but of course we're almost 15 minutes already. And so I don't really need to talk about a lot of the next few pages. The application process is spelled out on page 4, a summary of our screening process on page 5. Also engaging district staff and education partners. That would be where we're talking about getting input from your various groups. So if you want us to come on site and meet with your teachers, meet with your administrators, meet with the community, or if you'd prefer that to be all an online survey, we could do it that way as well. We can do a hybrid, whatever would work better for your district. However you think it's best to engage people, because you know better doing your community and district. We do have a 2-year guarantee on the hire, which is pretty important now because it seems like superintendents don't stay very long. And then on page 6 and 7, you'll see some recent searches and some references. I do have a sample timeline on page 8, which includes just kind of a real draft. Doing a board work session in September, having another work session in October, and we would engage stakeholders around that time as well. A deadline in November, and then candidate interviews, and then your second semester planning, just like I talked about a little bit ago.
What will be real important is then at our first meeting, when we set that, everybody bring their calendars so we can get our calendar set, because that's one of the most difficult things. Everybody's busy and that student activities, a lot of things going on. So we really try to nail that calendar down and put those dates on, and we'll true to that as we go through all those as well.
That's always the longest part of work session.
Yeah.
Is trying to figure out the timeline, because it's just people are on vacation, and then if you farm, you have harvest coming up and all that kind of thing. So page 11's last thing real quick, the search fee, $6,000, and that includes everything other than if you want to do that transition retreat. There's a nominal fee involved in that. Everything is listed there that we talked about. One source background checks, the meetings, all of that is included. And then the 2-year guarantee on the hire. And then the only thing we bill for is just, I say meals and miles. So if we're going to have a meal prior to or after a meeting, and then the mileage that would be incurred is really the only thing that we bill for, that would be extra. So what kind of questions do you have? Sure, you have some.
I'm not sure if I got it. You had mentioned your screening process.
Yes.
I definitely didn't catch it all. So
Okay.
When you said you'll bring forward like the people that fit the criteria of what we're looking for, does that mean there'd be some candidates that we wouldn't not see, or we would see everybody that would?
You would see everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back. I did kind of skim over that just a bit. So what happens is everybody that applies for the position, we want to make sure you know A to Z. Hopefully it's A to Z, but it might just be A to K. I don't know. Everybody that applies for the position, it's really important that you know everything about them. And so it might be a short conversation. Candidate C was recently fired from a position. You can still consider them if you want. They can tell you all about them, but here's what you need to know. And then you can decide if you want to still hear about that person or not. We screen everybody that applies. It is up to the board to decide who you would like to interview. That is not our choice to make.
And I think another important piece about the screening is you'll see all the candidates and the information, but the screening that we do on the backside, not just the references, but also people that work with them. One of my favorite calls is to a secretary or to those people that work with them every single day, and they see them when things are great and they see them when maybe it's a little stressful day. How do they react to those things? And so those are important phone calls. That builds our screening profile for those candidates. And that's something we can report back. Again, I like to go back to that leadership profile and find the match. It's not this, everybody has credentials, but what's that match? As you guys talk about what you need for your community and your school and your kids and your staff, what's that match look like? So that we can work on the backside to really find that the people that rise, the candidates that rise to the top, that come close to matching what you're looking for.
What's a typical number for like 6, 20, 50? Like that probably ranges, but
yeah. I mean, I would sure hope, it used to be 20. It used to be, and here's one thing I can tell you. We had a search last year and you helped with this one where we had like 15 applications and they found one person to interview. So a number is not as important to us as if you have 6 applications and 4 of them are out of this world. That's what we care about more. So I think you probably will be between 10 and 15 is my guess. Especially being on the front end here. We don't want to go too early because then people aren't ready to apply yet, but we don't want to be too late and miss, an opportunity. So that's the best I can say.
But what do you think about your community or school and everything? You need to have a lot of it. So it'd be a great opportunity. So that's what excites me about it, because it's a great opportunity for a super leader to come in, take over.
Continue the great work.
Continue the great work, right?
At what point in the process does contract details come into play, like compensation and those things? Like, is that after we offered somebody that we're figuring out those details?
I'll let you take that.
Yeah, sir. So we will talk about that from our first meeting. Is we'll look at your contract. If we do the search, what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll say, here's some things we can talk about. Also going to have Stephanie reach out to your school attorney and say, give us the most updated contract they have, and then we'll compare those. So what's in the contract you currently have, what's in the new and updated one, and we'll talk about what you'd like to see in there, what your thoughts are for that, and then we'll continue to kind of work on that piece. As you get to the point where you're selecting your candidates to interview, we'll start to zero in on that a little bit more, because what we want to have at the time of the interview, we want a draft contract. And that draft contract is going to be pretty set with vacation and things like that, minus the compensation. There'll be a blank line, because then what I'll do is I'll go back with all the arrays I do, and I do several different arrays to give you great comparisons with schools around your conference, your state aid stuff, your NSAA numbers. Especially what's important to me is your teacher negotiation group, those same schools. We'll put all those together and I'll be able to give you a kind of an average number, and then talk a little bit about where some places have settled this year, for next year already, and then kind of be able to give you just a little bit of guidance, and then you guys can decide what fits into your budget and where you want to be with compensation. So we talk about it all the way along. But when you're selecting your final candidates, that's when we're really going to kind of try to finalize, because we need a good draft on interview day.
And you won't actually decide what you're going to pay until you know who you're hiring.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Well, that's why my point is,
Yeah.
like, when you have your two top candidates, one, either never been a superintendent or a superintendent of 1 year or 2 years, and somebody that's been a superintendent for 20, and we're probably going to compensate the more experienced one a little bit more than the newer one.
and we'll guide you through all of that thought. Yep. And
The day of the interview, it's like a full day process depending on how many we will be interviewing, correct? And are we here all day for that, or how does that look like? Do we sit in on the community engagement part, or do we sit in on like the teachers? Like, what's it look like? Yeah, you could. So it depends. If you decide you want to interview 2 nights in a row, you could have,
kind of staggered where they come in and they interview with this group, and then the board, and then the next one follows them through. If you're interviewing in one day, you're typically rotating. So the board would be a group, your teacher might be a group, your administrators, your tour, and you would be rotating the candidates. So you wouldn't have the opportunity to sit in on other ones.
Will we get to engage with the teacher group and the community group to know what?
That's a great question. What we typically will ask them to do is put together a bulleted list of what we like and what we thought maybe was a weakness for the candidates. There's lots of different ways to do that, but you will get information from them. We always ask them to come in and tell you all about it, because then it's going to spend several hours.
Yep.
But we do have a process by which to get feedback from them, and that can be tweaked however the board would like us to tweak it.
And the positive points are also reported in open session. And one of the reasons that sometimes those groups will not come in is because we just don't know exactly what they're going to say. So we have to be a little bit careful about what they're saying in open session.
Yeah. But yes, you absolutely will get feedback from them, and discuss.
Might ask something that we didn't think of
Right tonight.
And I think the other point on that, they're going to be able to develop their questions for their groups as well. And so we send them out questions that would be like sample questions for their areas. And so some will be similar to yours, but some will be way different, especially if you engage students in the process on a tour or something like that.
Yeah.
Their questions are going to be different, and you're going to get different feedback, really very positive, powerful feedback.
What other questions? And we're kind of going over that. These are great questions too. So
I guess I had a question when I was reading through, specifically about the screening.
yes,
And not only just because, there's been a lot of issues that have happened, and you use one source.
Mhm.
And I know that like the background check, that doesn't say everything, and I appreciate the calls to other districts that people that they work with. Do you do the entire screening process for every applicant, or just for these are the ones that
we do it for every.
you do the full
Every
screening
single
assessment?
Well, okay, I'm going to disqualify that. The one source background check we do for people like maybe the top six that we believe, and we can always run it on other people as well, because that obviously costs a lot of money. And there are people like maybe somebody would apply that is a teacher right now and has never even been a principal.
Right.
Like we might not run that one until you identify them as interview candidates.
Sure.
But yes, we do run those one source background check on anybody that would be like the top thing.
And calling our contacts as well, but and obviously social media is included in that as well too.
And we do have Google, and anything that your staff can Google and say, why are they interviewing this person? Look what they did. You're going to know about, and you're going to be able to decide if you still want to interview them or not. So, did that answer your question, Steph?
Yeah. And that one source is included here.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yep.
I have one more. I see in your handout that obviously use websites for part of your recruitment. What are other tools you guys use to hone in on applicants and really gather the interest that would be looking for?
Yep, that's a really good question. So we advertise on Teach in Nebraska. We'll advertise on the NCSA website, and we'll advertise on our site. We have a brochure that we send out. And then word of mouth. And I think everybody in the state has my cell phone, and they're starting to get Rex's as well. I've given his number to a lot of people. So anyway, but there are a lot of people who have already contacted me this year to ask what's open and, that are looking to apply for jobs. So it's a lot word of mouth. We've been doing this for 19 years, been the director for the past, since 2013. So, and so it's just a lot of calling people and
Maybe administrative meetings he's gone to. He likes to announce he's retiring. So they all know.
well, there you go. That's good too.
I would also chime in and just say, if you are an administrator in Nebraska and you're wanting to be a superintendent, you already know where to go. It's kind of like if I'm a teacher in Nebraska, I get on Teach in Nebraska website. Administrators know to get a hold of, NCSA or Teach Nebraska, or they know where to look.
They do.
And who to,
That's a great point.
and who to talk to. Them.
Anything? No, thank you. Yeah, and I will say, I have people call me and say, I can't believe you answer your phone every time I call you. Why
don't you work other stuff too? Yes, I do, but it's just, you follow me, I'm an answer. So anyway, well, on behalf of NASB, we do want to thank you as well for your membership in NASB, and you're a member, so we're going to support you no matter what, but we sure hope that we are able to facilitate this process for you. We've been in huge joy working with you, and if you have any questions between now and when you make your decision, please contact me or Rex and let us know. We'd just be happy to answer those for you. So, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry to take up so much time. Oh, no, I'll apologize. Apologies, please.
That's great. Have next one.
May not be saying there.
Guys,
It's important, so it needs a lot of discussion.
Yes, bye.
And you guys have been with us for a long time. I know, a question a while. Yeah, all right. Thank you, sir.
Good to see you. Thank you.
See you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
It was good to see you.
Thank you
Nice
very
to
much.
meet you.
That should be the same.
Oh, it's been a while since I talked to you.
Yeah. And I still yeah, go on.
Yeah, we've had great experience.
It should be identical.
Oh, wait, you're not.
Yeah, it's not. That's what it's been.
Oh,
She good. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. I shouldn't see how they handle this. They're not helping some pieces out there. They did their job. You know, we could pay for it, Brad. It's site now. And if you guys, you know, over here or up here, wherever is comfortable for you.
You do have, did you?
Yep. What that be?
Yeah, Clayton, you'd like to take Thank you. Clayton, I got it. Is anybody else?
We'll take a nice,
Yeah, I'll keep,
I find it one.
yeah, I'll keep one of the nice. But yeah, you have to say, we just saw something, I'll just give him all to it.
So I'll just start out for you. First of all, Paul Sheffield, I am the new executive director at NERCSA. So I've been on the job for about a month and a half. So on behalf of NERCSA, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity to help possibly you choose your next leader. Just a little bit about me. I recently retired. I retired a year ago. I spent 17 years at Exeter Milligan as the superintendent there. And then I was 10 years as an administrator at Chickley. And then I did 6 years, I call it in the middle of nowhere in Kippahaw County, Springview, north of Ainsworth, east of Valentine. I was a math teacher, coach, and a bunch of other things. So like I said, moved there from Omaha. We were there for about 3 weeks and my wife was crying already. So this was before the internet. So if you can think about living up in north central Nebraska without Amazon delivery, online banking or anything like that. People are great, kids are great. It's just a long ways from civilization. So what we're going to do tonight is Dr. Cogswell would be one of the consultants, and we're going to kind of tag team our proposal. The other consultant on the for the search would be Holly Herzberg, who recently retired from Hampton. So just why NERCSA? That's one thing. Part of it is dealing with part of our name is rural school. We are rural. We represent rural schools. All of our consultants were from rural schools. To just give an example, I've been rural all my life. Actually grew up in a rural area in Minnesota. Dr. Cogswell spent 19 years at the Cool Junction. And so that's one of the things as we can stress is we know rural. We know what it takes to be in a rural community. And so that's one of the biggest things that NERCSA can offer for you. Another thing about that is the consultants. The consultants on the search are yours. They do not do searches for other schools at that time. Those two consultants are yours only. And so that's the nice, another thing is they work for you. And this is your process. This is your process. What we do is we're the guides along the way. We facilitate. We'll do the background checks on applicants. The nice thing about that is we'll put them in tiers after we go through the profiling process and say, fine, okay, this is what we're looking for in our next leader. We'll put them in tiers, but you get to see all the applicants. So if there are 17 applicants for the position, we'll put them in tiers where we think how they fit your need, but you see all 17. You get all of their information. And so that's what we pride ourselves at NERCSA, what we can do for you and for your superintendents. So Dr. Cogswell, you're up.
I
I'm Kurt Cogswell. First of all, thank you to the board for being on a board, because I'm a farm boy from Fred, Nebraska. And so Dad farmed all his life there and served on a school board. And I know how it goes. Dad would always talk to me about, God, he goes, adopting a budget, he goes, we get used to, say, here's what we need, set the levy and go. I said, it's not that way anymore, Dad. He goes, the only time I got calls, he said a friend got beat by Exeter in football on a Friday night. And he goes, that's the only time I got called. He goes, it's pretty easy to serve on a board. But I understand what it's like to serve on a board because he did it for a number of years. And then also my wife is a farm girl from Nebraska, and her dad served on the school board for a number of years at Meridian. And so I'm sitting there going, I understand what the commitment is to serve on a board of education. As a superintendent, I appreciate, that we have good board members to serve. So whoever you select, I always come back to thank you for serving on board. And I know Chad feels the same way. So the one thing, before I get on to the phases that say about NERCSA too, it's that, he said NERCSA hires all rural superintendents to do it. And I said, the thing that I really like about that is, when we do our vetting and do the calls, people sit there and go, Kurt, you can't be calling me about this applicant. And I go, yes, I am. They go, we wouldn't be a reference. I said, you're not. So we dig deep. We dig deep because we want to know who's not on the resume, to find out, who that person is, to find the best fit for you. What we want to do is we want to find the next Chad who is the NERCSA superintendent of the year. That's what we want to find for David City, find somebody who will stay for 15 years. And that's what we want. And that's not the trend right now, but that's what we want for you. But if you would turn to page 5, I will share with you, just the phases that we go through. We're in 5-phase process. And the first phase is, and I'll always come back, we work for you. So as we develop the phases and we have our phases and we say, hey, Kurt, can we do this a little bit different? Yeah. We work for you. You don't have to fit into our process. We fit into your needs. And so, but the first phase that we have is just a planning phase where we put together that announcement of vacancy. So we sit with the board and say, what are some highlights of your school district? What are concerns of your school district? What are you looking for in your next superintendent? Then we also go in the planning phase. Do you want to use community? Do you want to get the community involved, your staff members involved? How do you want the process to look? And we help you develop that. So that the first one, and then the time frame. I think the information that Paul sent out, there's a sample time frame. That's a sample. I will share just for my expertise that I can share, because after I retired as a superintendent, I went up and I was in Wayne State as a professor in their ed leadership program. And I would say, to get on this, the sooner the better. So you have to appreciate the judge giving you that opportunity to do that, because it really is. I said, when I was into it, you can still find superintendent candidates in May and June. It's not that way anymore. You really have to find those candidates, and the sooner the better. The sooner the better, because they're out there. The ones that are interested will know right away if they're interested in this position. So that's one thing that I tell you. Then the advertising campaign, we'll give you advice. I would say this, the advice that we'll probably give you is to advertise mostly, online. Sometimes we still run through the Omaha World Herald, little pricey, and I don't know if you get your dollar. It's not back in the day when I was, and you picked up the Sunday World Herald to see, what jobs were open. It's on Handshake, it's on Teach Nebraska, it's in different things. And another thing we do is we call every institution around that has an ed leadership program and make sure it's out there. And then we talk to the professors, say, who's out there that we can call and talk to that might be interested in this position, as long as they're a good match for this position. Then we talk about the recruiting and screening thing. That's really our phase that we really do the heavy lifting. Because when we come in here, each candidate we have is going to be vetted strongly. And there might be times when we say we're going to have to go into executive session because we're going to tell you, you know, all the warts and the good, because we don't want any surprises coming up. But we vet everybody. So anybody who applies will be vetted, and we will share that information. But some of that information can be sensitive that we share with you. And we'll ask that to be confidential, but we will vet everybody. You know, if 17 apply for this position, we'll be on the phone checking on 17 applicants, and not doing one or two calls. We'll be digging deep. And that's the thing that we appreciate too, that I think helps us is, you know, we call the people that aren't on the resumes. They tell us a little bit about this. And I have had that conversation. Kurt, there's no way I'm a reference for this person. I said, you're not. But I want to be honest. So the recruiting and screening phase, we try to get that, and then we'll share those names with you as we're going about it. Then the selection phase, that's when we come down and, like Paul says, we look at your needs and say, okay, we think this would be a good match. But I don't say, hey, you know, you should select Paul because he's better looking than Kurt. I say, you know, Paul might be a better fit because here's some of the things he's done for. You know, I was in David City 3 years ago for district speech. Amazing facility. You guys have done a great job. So I think the facility sells itself. You know, I think the activities and things that you have in your school district sell itself. You know, I think you've got great leadership that has helped you get that, but a great leadership from the board. But I think when you walked in this facility, God, it's impressive. You know, I walked around that day because my speech teacher was gone, and I was helping Dorchester superintendent at the time. So I came over and I just walked the facility. That's kind of strange. Old superintendents, they just look at the facility and go, wow, this is great. But I'm sitting there going, you should be proud of what you have here. But what we do, we match it up and say, okay, here's something that David City says they need. So if there's somebody we say has that expertise or could help you in that next stage, that's who we're at the search for. But we will share everybody who applies. And so that's our heavy lift. But then we come through, and I said, that night, if we had 17 candidates, we tell them board and apologize. So it'll probably take a couple hours to get through all 17 candidates, but you'll get that information beforehand too. So you'll get that information before we meet, because guess what? There might be somebody I might know somebody in that area too. We ask the candidates not to call you, but you know, we sit there and say, hey, because I've had board members before said, if I know somebody in that town, am I all right? And I go, you know, you're free to talk. You're free to talk. Because we want, as a rural superintendent, we want what's best for your school district. That interview phase, we'll go through that too. If the board decides we're going to have a community committee, faculty and staff committee, and then the board committee, we'll help you set that up, organize that. Both consultants will be there that day at the interview. We'll be the ones getting everybody where they need to be. And I think that is critical. Nurses that I've had at school district hire me through NERCS to do the principal search. And they said, Kurt, can you be here that day too? Why we do it? We want you to do exactly what you did. So he takes all the heavy lifting on the butts. So yeah, we'll be there to set it up, and we'll be the ones that knock on the door to keep the process going. 5-minute warning before we go to the next candidate, because we know how it goes. But both consultants will be here that day, helping you go through the process. And we'll be here we'll be in the selection process too, to say, okay, here's what we do. And then the real heavy lifting, we say, we let you guys call the one you select. We make the calls to the one you don't select. Toughest phone calls. I laugh. I said it was almost like Kurt Cogswell asking homecoming dates out, getting rejected. Those phone calls are hard. Those are hard phone calls. So, but again, we do that heavy lifting. We do that heavy lifting in the interview phase. And then another phase that I think I really like is the transition phase. Matter of fact, what's good is, I think in the next couple of weeks, a couple of searches I did, going to be doing a transition meeting with Hampton, and then I'm going to go down to New Superiors. And, just to make sure, the board and superintendent start aligning with what they want to do and just help them do the transition. And that will be there at hand too. after you get started. And I think Paul will probably share this with you later, is that, if something weren't to work out within a year or 2 years, NERCSA didn't search again.
And so what Kurt's alluding to there, and it's on that bottom of page 6, I believe, is we do have a warranty. So as you go through the process, and if you do the transition meeting within a 2-year period, superintendent leaves, or you find out, it just isn't working out, NERCSA has a warranty. Will we do the search on our guy?
Now, and I said, I'll turn it back over to Paul said he's the eye candy, so I'm going to turn it back over to the eye candy here in a minute. I do want to share one thing that when I go with school boards, and because I don't think we do a good enough job in educational leadership to talk about the role you play. But thank you for serving rural Nebraska. I laugh and I share this. I got my doctorate back east at Seton. There was a group of 30 of us. Most of them were New York, big city. At the end of our 3-year cohort, the professor said, out of all the districts represented across the country here, where would you like to go visit? Tool 1. They pointed at me. My nickname was Mayberry. We'd like to go to Mayberry. We'd like to see what it's like in Nebraska and all the fantastic things this guy doing with K-12. Because they're talking about resource officers. I go, never happened. Metal detectors. We walk through metal detector. I tell them about community coming in and volunteering to do things. You go, are you serious, Cogswell? And one of my best ones, the New York Times came out and did an article on 6-man football game in McCool's Junction. New York superintendent picked up the Cogswell, you're in the New York Times. And I can't believe 6-man football. I said, it's such a thing. I go, it is such a thing. I said, it's pretty fun to watch. But everyone said Nebraska, because we have a quality system. But it's because of people putting it out there. So no matter what, you have a good one here with a great reputation. Now, obviously, I'd say with our superintendent of the year, but we will hope to find somebody that can come in and keep it going here. So thank you.
And so just to wrap it up, NERCSA provides 3 search services. The one is the full service search, which I think is what you're looking at. And that's when we have the 2 consultants help you out through the whole process. Then we have what we call an abbreviated search, where you'd have 1 consultant. They wouldn't necessarily be here on interview day. And so a lot of the heavy lifting is actually done behind the scenes, but for the day that was interview and stuff like that, you are basically in charge of that. And then we also do interim searches too. So that is us in a nutshell. Again, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to help you in the future. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't.
How about developing a contract for the one that's selected, compensation, those things? Do you guys play a part in that process at all? Or
Yes, we'll do comparables.
Yeah, we do work up a set of comparables, so comparable size districts, and then share that information with you. Actual contract-wise, we recommend you use your school lawyers to have the actual correct. Sure. But we do
comparables, and we'll look at school districts comparable to your size, and then we'll ask you guys, and we'll research every one of them and come back to them.
Traditionally, how much involvement have you guys had on other searches with administrators, teachers? Is that involvement with the board?
Yeah, no, it's with, if you guys can, excuse me, go with committees, the consultants will meet with the committees, and we'll come back and you guys will select the committees. We'll say, who are your community leader, your community people that you want to select, who are your faculty and staff that you want to select. Then we'll work with them as far as coming up with, questions they want to ask, how to conduct interviews, things like that. We'll meet with them, but and then we'll share that back with the board to say, here's some of the questions, like that faculty and staff are going to ask. Here's some questions the community wants to ask. But we'll be there working. We will meet with each committee, and the only we'll have to have, a go-to point here, to give us emails, committee members, and just to be that point of contact. So we do ask for a point of contact in the school before, to help us out, because if we go with we recommend at least 4 candidates to interview on that interview day. So on that day, we'll have to work with somebody, say, okay, what rooms are going to be for each candidate, because the candidate and their spouse will make sure they have a room and then a meal. It helps plan the meal. We'll help to rotate what rooms are best for interview. The board will interview in this room, or the community group interview at, or the faculty and staff interview at. We always recommend this to trying to get the kids involved with maybe some student leadership, show them around the building, because that's real critical. And kind of afterwards, I'm going to ask kids, how they talk to you, because that is important. I always tell people this too: when you're eating lunch, look how they interact. Look how your school leader or your future school leader interacts with others when they're eating lunch. Those are important. But when they're walking around with the students, are they interacting with the most important resource we have in our building, our kids? Are they interacting? Those are some of the things we work with the committees. And that day, the kids will meet with the committees beforehand. That's one thing that anybody that's on a committee will have to agree to come up at night and work with us. The staff, we try to meet right after school with them, so it can go right from school, so they don't have to come up on a night. But community will have to come up and give one night, and then give usually an all-day Saturday work. So good question.
And to add a little bit onto that, when it comes down to the actual finals, where you choose as a board, you choose who you want to be your next leader. The committees, if you choose to use the committees will come to the board. They won't say, hey, we want this applicant. What they do is okay, these are the pros, the strengths of this applicant. These are the weaknesses of this applicant. But they don't come out and say, this is the one we want. That is your choice.
Right.
And they just provide information from their point of view. So that way you don't run in and say, wow, we said we wanted this one, but they chose the other one.
And the consultants are real clear with each committee. Your job is to provide input, not to select. As elected officials that were chosen to do that. But good question.
I'm curious how many school districts in Nebraska currently superintendent searches that they first saw.
And thirdly,
that
I've already started. Or
close.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a lot here right now.
Yeah, it is. But what's kind of nice about that is like with Chad saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to retire at the end of this year. That gives you a chance. And I think that's where some of the superintendents know there just aren't a lot out there. It's a tough position. It really is. It's rewarding, but no. I know a lot has been thrown at you tonight. If you think of a question later on, you have my contact info. Call, email, not a problem. If you have questions, we're a resource for you. And that's the one thing is to say, we are here for you to help you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this.
Thank you. That's it. You should really do it. And it goes in fact.
Thank you.
The big. So if I make this thing, things understood. I'm sitting on the shooting starts. So you're considered so far here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. No, thank you very much. Christine,
Thank you.
very much. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
Yeah. Thank you. And you guys start to say, where's that headed off to, back to?
Just like record search. So that now.
Not too bad.
Not looking at extra.
Please and tell like
Yeah,
About an hour.
yeah.
Maybe a little quicker.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the next item, is there any like initial thoughts? Or I know Mac and Jake weren't here. Obviously, they were. One of the things that I did find out, like they are a national search firm, so those two are specific to Nebraska. Mac and Jake do go have national partners all around.
I saw their price and kind of put it.
I should have said
They did.
yeah, yeah.
What did you even bill us when you were
We actually went with Mac and Jake to hire. Yeah. But actually, I feel like search firms have. I don't even know if NERCSA was searching at that time. I don't think that NERCSA.
Do all three firms have access to all superintendents, or do superintendent? Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to go with one firm and then them not have access to somebody else because they're under the other firms.
Right. No, it's not. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I think you guys just need to take a couple of weeks and review the information that was provided and what you heard tonight, and go with the firm that you guys feel most comfortable using, because I think all three of the firms do a nice job. It's just really a matter of what you think. David said he, and he goes, elected officials think was going to get you the best candidate. And so that's some good options. Yes, I think that's a good way to put it, Marcus. So
Yeah. And I like that there's, they put schools in there that they worked with. Those are also on their website. So, I know that NERCSA has a pretty comprehensive list too on their website. So, if you want to take a look, and then make phone calls if you know board members in different communities that have used them, feel free to call. Let's ask about it.
did you also just briefly
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
make sure they
Yeah.
saw that?
I know that. So when I went through and created this table, I tried to make sure that it was equal across the board, and because the contract wording was always just a little bit different. So, if there's some mistakes in there, I apologize, some things that you think should be in different places. But as I was going through and putting it together, they really truly are very, very similar. Very similar. I liked that they all have that tier APT, which is good. It's not a position that you want to be in. But there's that. I know that. And then I tried to list schools too. Although NASD and NERCSA, they obviously work with a lot more within Nebraska, so I didn't list all of them. So if you guys, and just as I don't know if it needs to come into play, but or when it would, maybe later on down the line, it's just the experience that we had during search service when they were in Feder for Chad, and how that went, and the different things that we did during that process. Touch on that, and later to me too.
Did you put this together?
Yeah.
Good job.
No,
This was so helpful.
Oh.
After I went through all three of them, and then I scrolled down and saw this.
Well, I was
I know.
I was going through the contracts, and I'm like, well, I can't remember.
Because I started writing stuff down too, like, oh.
Yeah.
This was good. So thank you.
They did, there's different ways that they engage the stakeholders. I think that's not the biggest difference between them, from what I could tell, because a lot of the other things are very, very similar. And they have access to very similar information. So,
We're going to want to decide and vote on this for the next year.
yeah,
Yeah.
2 weeks, yeah. And then that initial board meeting to come up with a leadership profile, or to do all those things, probably September.
Right, to do.
So what we want is another meeting in September. Now, hopefully we'll be able to get it done by December. I think that our December board meeting would be the very last meet, like that would be no later than that to approve to hire. I would not want to go into January because I think that there's a lot that could happen in November, December kind of frame.
That's as early as the month
Yeah.
between them.
I think it would behoove you to, if you can, hire one in November. A lot of superintendents and board started making decisions for the next year and contract extension being offered the December board meeting.
So they're kind of already out.
So, just as your current superintendent, like, obviously kind of know how things work. I think if you could have a decision made in November, I think you'd have your best chance of getting king. I think your goal is to have one by Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because it gives them an opportunity then this have a preliminary contract signed with you that you can actually act on at your December board meeting, and they can give a recommendation for your December board meeting. So I think if you could.
Plus the next school.
Right.
Right.
We're gonna at their school
Right.
too.
And so I think that'd be a reasonable goal for you guys. And I think a search fund could probably do that, but I just think that would,
November.
well, there's 5, I think, superintendent openings now, and I was told
That surprised me.
there will be between 25 and 30 this school year. And so I think if you have the opportunity to get a quality candidate hired.
Is it because the grass is greener going somewhere else, or what? What is
That's
Rule of 5.
Rule 3?
good candidates are retiring.
Yeah. Just getting out of it.
It's it could be a difficult job.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
Thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah.
so maybe we would be better off using the national, somebody that maybe a bigger foot thing to pull from.
Depends on, do you want somebody from
Let's just
state
what would pull somebody? I was saying that or do you want?
or do you who?
But a superintendent, I feel like same, but I feel like somebody who's wanting to go rural and will be looking, they can look into Nebraska. Or, I don't really want to pull somebody if they're not looking already. Any sense? I don't know.
How many superintendents can you think of that came in from out of state?
I think people usually
There are some, usually they're, retired or veteran superintendents, probably the biggest challenge that superintendents from out of state find is the school finance piece. Right. Because every state it's just different. It doesn't mean it's more difficult or easier or better. It's just every state has their own way of financing things. I mean, when I was out in western Nebraska, and I would look at Wyoming schools, the state funded all building projects. So that wasn't part of the job responsibility as a superintendent. So that was appealing to a lot of people who maybe didn't like the finance piece or the facility planning piece. And so I think that's probably the biggest difference from state to state, is just the school finance piece. And I think especially given the times now, but that's going to probably be important. Not the only thing that you're looking for, but somebody that understands the Nebraska's finance.
As far as only people we did when we interviewed Dr. Dinker, we interviewed 3 candidates and 1 candidate was from Kansas. And basically, like you said, he had retired from his position in Kansas, was looking for another position to be a superintendent.
But I'm not opposed if somebody out of state. I didn't mean it to come that way for us.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if they do,
So
so they are aware and they do.
Yeah, but that was McPherson, right?
Yeah, we did Mac and Jake. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot, I think, take a look. I think that the presentations were both great. We'll just need to come to the table in 2 weeks and, any further questions you have, or if there's anything, that you have a question on and, you want you guys can reach out to everybody that was presented, or if you want to compile, and I can reach out if we have several different, like, I don't know, everybody can do their own research and just come back and see. Okay. Okay.
Right.
I will say, I think it's important that we get as much stakeholder feedback as we can. All right, we'll move on to school improvement presentation.
Yeah, I just thought it might be nice to have Peggy as our school director to give you guys a quick update. There's some recent happenings with the school improvement process. She's not going to go through the entire plan again or anything like that, but maybe get some highlights or some key things that might be of interest to you tonight. Won't be the full dissertation.
I know we all just presented on this in display, but we have had some things come up over summer and then developed some things. So Dr. Baker asked me to present again. We did present to the entire staff, certified in paras, last Friday. So this is kind of an abbreviated version of what we presented to them. Just some background information. Rule 10 is our rule in Nebraska that is one of our governing policies that schools follow. In there about school improvement, it says that we have to review and update the district's mission and vision, collect and analyze data, establish improvement goals, develop and implement an improvement plan, and be involved in an external visit once every 5 years. We did review our mission statement as a part when we went for a strategic plan, and we determined that there wasn't enough suggestions to change, and we reviewed it and determined to keep it the same. So, these are the dual goals that we decided upon as a school improvement team. We took this year to kind of develop these goals, went over them again in May when we met as a full team. Our academic goal has to deal with reading, that all students will demonstrate growth in reading proficiency across all content areas. By the 29-30 school year, at least 75% of students, we're using 75% of students because that's the mark the state has set, that they want all 75% of third graders to reach proficiency by 2030. And so we went with that. The one change we made in May is we had said by all of our assessments, and in May when we talked, we really narrowed it down and said, when we have our school improvement meeting in 3.5 years now, how are we going to say we met this or we didn't? And we said it's really going to be by those statewide accountability assessments, which are going to be NSCAS and ACT. But all assessments count, and everybody has a plan in it, but it's really going to be those that are going to say whether we met this or not. And then our MTSS goal is that we'll establish and apply a cohesive multi-tiered system of support by defining tiered expectations, adopting a district-wide framework, training all staff for shared understanding, delivering consistent implementation through high-quality instructional materials, common data practices, and collaborative leadership. So our academic goal of reading, we have a lot of things we're working on, but really some of the big things are, we got that CLSD grant for K-5, and then we have a lot of reading initiatives going on. We just started our UNO Works training. We had our first session, first of 12 that we'll have over the next 3 years. We started that last week. We'll also have coaching and after-school tutoring, and we'll have some literacy readers at each elementary building. We adopted that SPIRE reading intervention, and then we had training this summer in this multi-syllabic routines for 2nd through 6th grade, I should say, not the tickle. And then we have lots of staff attending science of reading trainings at the ESU, and that's from preschool through 12th grade staff. So you have 5 or 6 from my building, and all 4 preschool teachers went. So I'm going to focus this a little bit more on our MTSS, what we're doing. And I went through that goal earlier, but really just a quick overview of MTSS. They kind of define an MTSS system as having 3 tiers. Tier 1 is supposed to meet the needs of 89 to 90% of students. They're supposed to be successful in your high quality instructional materials. Another 5 to 15% need tier 2 or more targeted supports. And then you have about 1 to 5% of students who need more intensive supports. And so that's a basic triangle of MTSS, and I know we went over that before. We did as MTSS self-assessment as a district, and we identified different areas of where we need to improve. And one of those is the shared leadership approach. And shared leadership is just so everybody has this part in the MTSS process. And so one of the things, we've developed a lot of different teams that go into MTSS, and that's kind of what I wanted to spend my time on today. And that's going to be this handout that's kind of behind your packet. And if anyone wants to copy it, as well as that. So if you have like the team, we talk about them in different presentations, but I think we developed this over the summer. It really shows what those teams, kind of how they work together. This top part is district leadership, and then it funnels down, and the bottom is where you're at individual student level. And so one of the things that we've done in the last year is we worked a lot with our school improvement team, and we have made the decision that our school improvement team is going to be our district MTSS team. And they're going to oversee the MTSS process in the entire district. And so they give guidance on what needs to be done in different buildings, but they're kind of overseeing that process. And when I developed this document, I was trying to get it to be more visual so that you could see how everything worked together. But we have a more extensive document that this is linked to. And this document then explains every team, who's on the team, what that team's role is, and more details. But this document really just gives a good overview and visual. And I'm going to explain the elementary side, and Stacey can give you a lot more of the secondary side. But this, on the elementary side, this team here is the only team we've added on the elementary side. Everything else was already in place at the elementary level. What we added this year was an elementary MTSS team, and that's a team that has membership for both Bellwood Elementary and David City Elementary. And that team makes decisions that happen in both buildings. So they're going to make decision rules for reading and those type of things, then both elementary buildings apply those. And so this team, we started officially in March. We've done a lot of work. We had a full work day this summer in June. And then we kind of split that elementary MTSS team into committees. There was the social emotional committee, a math committee, and a reading committee. And those committees met over the summer. But this team really did a lot of work this summer, and I'll get more into that later. But this team is going to provide that leadership. And this was a missing piece when we looked at components of MTSS teams. That was kind of the missing piece of what we didn't have. And then our elementary CCC teams work into this process because they're implementing that high quality instructional materials. And we're working with grade level teams in both buildings to make sure they're implementing across both buildings. And then at the building level, we have our data days teams where we make decisions on what students should be in what interventions, and we look at data. And then the bottom part is for those students that are really struggling, and we need to meet with parents to problem solve, and what should we do for this child? Here are some things you can try, and maybe in the end, we refer them to special education. That's at the bottom of this MTSS teams on the elementary side.
Okay.
Spill out there.
I would say all of those teams are brand new to the secondary. So the secondary MTSS team started this year. We started in like November-ish. And a lot of our focus was working with NBE. So we did maybe we did 4 different work sessions. Is it 4? I think so.
with Brett Geber. And basically the goal was to train everybody in the school what MTSS really means, how you actually implement it, and the tiers of support that you should put in place. So that team did a lot of the groundwork. And then we also created our secondary CCC teams. And in our secondary CCC, those are just PLT teams. Those are professional learning teams. We call it CCC here, but everybody else calls it PLTs. So that's what I'm used to. But basically, we did some work with the core teams this year so that they understood how to look at data, how to actually determine students that needed help. And then this year, we actually have created a schedule that has time set aside for a common plan for all of the departments so that they can meet during the school day and carry out those CCC goals. But we also added all of the departments. So it's not just our core. Middle school team is really specific. That is our 7th and 8th grade core. They will be talking specifically about transition, why kids need supports, what is working, what is not working, and how we can adjust that as we go. And then we also, for this year, I was the SAT team. That was not ideal. So Annie Chrisman is now our coordinator, and she is creating that team right now. So that will be specifically for students who are not succeeding at all.
Yeah, we developed this because we had that bigger document and it was really overwhelming. And so we felt like this really, the three of us principals worked together and developed this, and we felt like this is a good visual for staff to refer to that really explains kind of the process when you can really see how everything works together. Any questions? Okay, so then, so some of the things we're doing at the elementary level for MTSS, we had a reading ad hoc committee that we met first semester last year, and we developed a document for Chair 1 that says this is what teachers must use, that might use, or won't use for reading instruction for CKLA. And then we kind of morphed that committee into the elementary MTSS team. And then that elementary MTSS team over the summer, on our work day and some of their committee meetings, they developed that same document for math and social emotional. And one of our biggest discussions, because I was on the math committee, one of the biggest discussions we had in our smaller committee, and then we took to the larger committee, one of the issues we're having with math is just fact fluency, because every year students, they go to the next grade level, they don't know their facts, they get to middle school, they don't know their facts. And so we had developed a document that says that you must, this is what you should practice for facts, and it's up to every teacher to practice it how they want it. Some were doing online games, some were doing rocket math, some were doing different ways. And after a long discussions with Dr. Danker, long discussions as a committee, those teachers decided that this year we were going to use rocket math K6. So it was consistent, and we want everybody to do it the same. We feel like you can't really go away from paper pencil practice. We felt that was important. Rocket math has been changed in the last couple of years. They have a lot more added to it. And this committee got together a whole nother day, and they made math kits for every teacher. So when we told them about this at our dean service, we handed them the materials to get started. And so, and then we also, Lindsay was on a committee that developed some reading decision rules. But we kind of felt it was important for you guys to see how those teams kind of are laid out, and then some of the work they're doing and why it is so important to have those teams. Anything to add, Lindsay?
No, I would just say like our rating decision rules and the must use, might use, won't use. I mean, that was just developed to create consistency among all our teachers and staff. So, and then we created the decision rules, and we got playbooks, so to speak, that we've been working on, and that's a work in progress. But we're quite a ways. We're almost done with that. So
we have one teacher from every grade level on our elementary MTSS team, Title I, special ed, school psych, Lindsay and I, and they're a bunch of go-getters. And we've had some really good discussions at that level. Is it
I mean, I know this is some of it's new, some of it we've been doing. It's all new for high school, but is the plan of people, hey, who wants to be a part of this team? Like they're taking recruits, and that's always not, that's very easy. But is the plan maybe to rotate teachers on those teams, or is it just, please, if you want to do it, let's do it, or how is that? Or have you haven't got any thought? Okay, that's fine, and that's fine.
Yeah, honestly, to be honest, this last year when I started on some of the teams, it was really who would like to be part. This is what the purpose of this team is. Would you like to join us? And I kind of I honestly recruited a couple of people that key people that I thought would really be great for the team. Like I needed an English, I needed a math, that kind of thing. But generally, they were pretty excited about doing it, and they were kind of ripe to do it. They were ready for this. So that wasn't really that hard to recruit them. In fact, when I did my end of year survey with Principals Advisory and MTSS, I actually added like 3 people on each team, and nobody left. So that might be the problem. So my problem might be exactly what you're talking about. How do we rotate that out? So I don't know what that looks like right now. That has to be developed by the team. We'll figure that out.
And Stacey, I'll let you talk a little bit. Just this is your secondary. If there's anything, I know you kind of highlighted this in the spring.
We worked on a lot of stuff this year. I mean, really, honestly, the MTSS team did a lot of heavy lifting. But we worked on Tier 1 and Tier 2 strategies. We're really going to focus on opportunities to respond and explicit teaching as a whole staff. And we're going to develop a toolbox for that so that we can always go back to that. So that no matter who is teaching in which position, they have that information. And then our second Tier 2 strategy we're working on is check-in, check-out. So those are what we're going to specifically focus on, but we have other strategies in the toolbox. We worked on our decision rules. So how does a kid get into Tier 2 or Tier 3? Understanding that the whole goal is everybody will have Tier 1 work, and they'll all be Tier 1 students. But some students might dip into Tier 2 or Tier 3. They might dip back. It's really a fluid thing. They're not stuck there forever. So the goal is to really create a system where we're providing that intensive support and getting them back to Tier 1 as fast as possible. SAPERS we added, which is our social emotional survey. And I know the elementary was doing it before. We added it last year. And so we are currently looking at that data from last year, and we'll be implementing it again this year to see if we need to add any groups to our high school. So if our counselor needs to work with specific groups that might have trouble with regulation, self-regulation, or whatever it might be. Or if we have specific students who need some more intensive support. But we're working through that right now. We added an ELA supporter.
Feedback?
Yep. SAVERS, social and emotional support. That's a screener. Yeah, it's a screener.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's a behavior. You go right. Have the teachers that answer some quick questions about students, and it highlights which students might be struggling social emotionally, and then students from second grade and above answer questions about themselves.
Okay. And then we added ELA and math supports for 7 and 8. We had them in high school, which was backwards in my cabin. We needed to bring it back 7. So we have them 7 through 9. So we did a lot of work. So I'm pretty proud of that group. That group worked hard.
And so we felt it was really important just to give an overview of the staff, because I heard a lot of rumbling is what's happening, just so they had to get overviews. And so the elementary kind of hear what the high school is doing, and vice versa. It was a little bit longer when we gave this presentation to them. It was a good highlight, and we'll explain now on that slide. But once again, these are our goals for 2030. And we really talked to the staff about how we're all in this together, and the school board's a part of this. We're working to improve our district, and it's everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
The other thing I would add is you go always sometimes asked, are we trying to develop teacher leaders in the district? And hopefully this presentation maybe put your mind at ease alone with it. Our building administrator, we're working really hard to develop teacher leaders to take over some of these committees and really do the heavy lifting. And so hopefully that helps maybe answer your questions a little bit.
It sounds like the embracement.
Yeah.
That's good. That 75% goal in 3 years, where are we at now? Good treating.
Well, scores are still embargoed.
We can't tell you.
Yeah, tell me
You
that.
don't have like a
But a year ago,
gas?
We can go.
a year
we can tell
ago,
you
we
from
were
a
in the
year ago.
60s. We were in the 60s.
Yes, but we can't give you this
I
last
just trying to
year
figure
yet.
out how lofty the total.
It's embargoed till when?
November.
Yeah. Last year's data is embargoed at the state level till November, so we're not allowed to release it to even board members until November.
But I would say, like, you know, we have some great things. This data is not embargoed. We have some great things going at the elementary level. And I know our kindergarten, we had high percentages in our reading. Last year, we only had very few that didn't meet that benchmark. So that's going to trickle up, and there'll be third graders in 2030.
And so, and one of the questions I guess I had is, I know that you have to pick an assessment, and that, you know, in SCAS, the state assessment is what going by. There's always that fear of changes, that's new scoring, or all of the things that they can do to manipulate what those results look like. I would assume that when you guys have data days that you're still using some of those same other metrics that we have to kind of support, because the last thing I would want is for our teachers and students to put in all this work and then this final result isn't what you hoped for because of things out of your control, and using some other metrics to support.
And we talked to all the teachers about all of our assessments, working into that. We probably had over an hour discussion as a school improvement team in May on what assessments to use and how we're going to say because that was kind of our concern with NSCAS, is because it is changing. But if that's what the state is using, then we felt we needed to go that route. But really everything adds together. But we didn't make that decision lightly when we narrowed it down.
No, I think we're still using that progress monitoring, like MAP or DIVLs. That's very much important to us, and we're still very much looking at that. And that's how we make adjustments in curriculum or whatever we might need to do. But really, honestly, we had to be honest with ourselves. If we're looking at what the state is looking at, we do have to use what they have per day. So thank you guys for. You're welcome. Okay, that brings us to the end. We have no personnel.
Girl.
And future discussion action items. August 26th is our next meeting, 7 o'clock. Basically our budget workshop. And then list search firm selection. Those should really be the only two things on the agenda, unless something else comes up, that needs to be on.
What's the date of our next meeting?
August 26th.
That was kind of the last thing I wanted to just make sure everybody was good on the dates before we adjourn, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So Wednesday, August 26th at 5 o'clock, there'll be a special board meeting for those that are on the construction manager at risk committee. So that's 5 board member Kleins Clay, Brian Homelbrock, and I as 2 administrators, and then the 2 community members are Daryl Allen and Tanner Bacon. That meeting's at 5 o'clock here, and we will review the companies that have applied of interest in the CM at risk. So that's at 5. That 7 o'clock that night is our special board meeting, like Stephanie said, where we'll talk budget and tax, and also search fund selection. So that's the 26th of August. The very following week, Wednesday, September 3rd, 2nd, that same committee, construction manager at risk committee, meets at 7 o'clock that night. And that is when that committee will interview the finalists for the CM at risk position. So the 26th, you'll review all the companies, narrow it down, interview them on the 2nd. The following Wednesday is that on the 9th, that's our regular board meeting.
I thought we
Excuse me, we moved that one.
Yep.
Sorry. Thank you. Monday the 14th. That's when we'll have our budget and tax hearings. And then we would also have our regular board meeting that night. The following Monday, the 21st, is when that joint public hearing is, the pink poster, where I'll have to give a presentation of our,
Then what are the requirements of the board now? Because I know that that's
they request that a
one
board
board still
member-
on.
Yes, for this year.
But next year is it all? For
It's not all, but it's
that's something it does.
we can snap myself and one board member at that. I'll do the talking, I'll give the presentation.
And a board member can take the heat,
Yeah, that's right. Then I'll
and then you're out.
slide out.
We all do the outro of that. Sorry.
The 21st, they request a board member to take everybody.
One person, one board member.
All I'm saying is like,
I think,
I thought it was under the impression like you only had to go to that meeting if you were.
you know,
Above the 2%, I think we'll be above the 2%.
Well, that might be. I guess my question was that.
Yeah.
Is that requirement still the same?
For this year, yes.
I think
I thought there was talk.
Next year, it's everybody.
It's everybody has to go no matter what.
They-
Yeah.
That starts next year.
That's my question.
Yes.
What time is that pink poster?
I think 7 o'clock. He hasn't given me the details, but that's what I'm assuming. So that's on the 21st. And then 2 days later, on the 23rd, at 3 o'clock, we would have our special board meeting. And then leave at 3:30 for the area meeting in Fremont, which is at 4:30. There are 3 of you that are getting an award. Clay is level 1, Justin level 5, and Stephanie level 10.
finally, it was on. It's me. After 16.
5 and she's at 10, so like,
Yes, so you got a ways to go.
between
So
5 and 10.
And so he's got, you got a ways to go. That's what that means.
Being done in this nation.
Does that, do those dates sound
Got it.
accurate? Are we good?
Yeah.
We were paid next month.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna earn every bit of your wages.
Where does that post curtain be?
I assume it will be in the basement of the auditorium again, but she has not sent out the info to the superintendent. She just asked us if that date was gonna work. Ain't sure.
We have to put a snap aside one. Going to 6, give me a bump.
That does get long. So yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
sure. Yes.
House. Uber Eats providers.
DoorDash?
Yeah. I'll see what I can do for a meal or snacks that night, since we'll be here for 4 hours. So thank you for indulging me there.
And I just want to make sure student board members know too that you do not need to go to all those.
Yeah.
Okay. They're starting to hyperventilate a little bit. Oh my goodness. But
If you want to, though.
Yeah. Like if you want to come to the budget discussion in 2 weeks, you're welcome to. If you want to learn about school finance, but you won't hurt my feeling that you don't want to hear me talk for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
I'll probably have homework.
Mrs. Backstrom already gave Matt that night.
You're like, please give me homework.
That's a good answer. It's a good answer. It's an honor roll student right there.
okay.
So, all right, thank you.
All right. Yep. And then I guess within all of that, we'll see after in 2 weeks what then we'll need to schedule for search situation to get that going.
Yeah.
Off to. So there'll probably be at least one more meeting that's going to have to be mixed in there somewhere. Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
So moved by Marcus, seconded by Clay. All those in favor? Yep.
10:03?
Yep.
There. Let me shut that down.